I remember back in 2012, Mitt Romney was mounting an admittedly uphill battle to try to oust Barack Obama, who was then the incumbent president running for a second term. And again, structurally, presidents have the advantage of incumbency. They tend to get reelected. So it was always going to be a hard fight for Mr. Romney. But Mr. Romney made the hill he was climbing in that election a little bit steeper when he chose this whippersnapper as his vice presidential running mate. And there were reasons for Mitt Romney to pick Paul Ryan. By all accounts, Mr. Romney and Mr. Ryan really liked each other. Paul Ryan had a lot of support in the Republican Party. In the context of Romney having just come out of a hotly contested Republican primary that year, probably Paul Ryan seemed like a good fit, would seem to particularly bolster his sort of hardline bona fides because Paul Ryan was seen as a hardline guy, particularly on economics and financial issues. But the reason Paul Ryan had that reputation is because he was the top budget guy for Republicans in the House. And Paul Ryan, if he was known for one thing in national politics at the time Mitt Romney picked him to be his running mate, if he was known for one thing, it was his budget that he had drawn up. And that was absolutely associated with him more than any other thing about him. It was a super draconian budget plan, which he had introduced in Congress, which, among other things, had gigantic, crippling cuts to health care. And that's what he was trying to do in the House as a member of Congress, as the head of the Budget Committee. As a vice presidential running mate, that was not an awesome thing for the campaign to be saddled with. I mean, a vice presidential choice is supposed to be an uncomplicated, do-no-harm boost for the campaign. But in Romney's case, he picked Paul Ryan, and that meant, everybody likes Paul Ryan. But he then had to spend a significant portion of the general election fight defending this totally politically unpalatable budget that was the only thing Paul Ryan was famous for. Specifically, he ended up spending a big portion of the general election running against Barack Obama, who had, as president, overseen the largest expansion of health care coverage to Americans in generations. Mitt Romney had to spend his general election campaign running against Obama, saying, Obama getting more people health care, that's terrible. And my running mate, my vice president, is the guy who's got his name on the gigantic crippling cuts to health care, right? The Paul Ryan budget cuts to health care and Social Security. I mean, that wasn't Romney's budget. It was Paul Ryan's thing from the Congress. But because he picked Paul Ryan to be his vice president, Romney had to spend all this time defending that thing, even though it wasn't his own. Well, that was 2012. Now, 8 years later, we are in an election year again, and this time the incumbent president is in the Republican Party. And today, the day of the New Hampshire primary, President Trump rolled out his budget for this next year. And you would think the White House would be acutely aware that this is a year in which the president is trying to get reelected. You would not think they would want to saddle him in his reelection campaign with something that's going to be very hard to defend, especially for general election voters. But sure enough, they rolled out President Trump's budget today. It has $1 trillion in health care cuts. Vote for me, Donald Trump. I know the first term has been a little rocky, but in the second term, I plan to cut $1 trillion in funding for health care. Also, if you're a little worried about that coronavirus thing that's happening, the World Health Organization that's coordinating the international response to that crisis, my budget today proposes cutting their budget by more than half right now. Who needs it? Vote for me. I mean, at least when Mitt Romney got saddled with this thing in 2012, it was Paul Ryan's fault. I mean, it was only Mitt Romney's fault because he picked Paul Ryan, not noting this albatross that Ryan was going to drag into the race with him. In this case, it's the president's own doing. In this case, this genius political move for the president to be running for re-election, proposing $1 trillion in health care cuts, this is the president's fault alone. This is the fault of the Trump White House.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.